Professional Teaching Fellow in the Dance Movement Therapy Program at the University of Auckland and works as a DMT in a school setting. She supervises and mentors DMTs and students in New Zealand, where she also offers workshops and an annual Authentic Movement retreat. She co-created Physical Storytelling with partner Dr. Steve Harvey. She has been teaching Authentic Movement online for a few years. She has experiences with many different populations, including people with disabilities, brain-injured adults, frail elderly, and children. She's attended workshops with many DMT pioneers and interned with Dr. Judith Kestenberg. She teaches DMT in many countries, including Taiwan, Australia, Guam, and is on the faculty of Inspirees Institute in China. She currently is vice president for the DTAA. She currently resides in Guam, USA, and she's had past roles on the ADTA board as well as president of 2 chapters. Welcome, Connor. Take it away.
Okay, it's weird again to not see you. And I mean, I will have Erica at some point field some feedback if I can't see what's going on in the chat and the Q&A. But because of who I am, I'm always going to start in movement. So if you are need to sit, need to lie on the floor, I don't care what you do, but I'm going to stand. And I've got my huge cat Gandalf, who's a boonie cat, which means he was born in Guam, hanging out. So you might see cat interaction. So what I want to do first is I want you to find your feet in the floor if you can, in whatever way. And if you can't have your feet on the floor, whatever part of your body is on the floor, I want you to really root into the land. Where are you? And I want you to acknowledge, we do this all the time in DTAA, where we acknowledge the original peoples, the original ancestors of this land. And so I'm standing on Chamorro land. I'm on the north end of Guam, and Chamorro are the original people, and they still live here. And I continue to learn more and more about this. You may be somewhere else. You may not even know the original tribe, but just see if you can feel that. And as you're feeling that, I also want you to imagine that somehow as dance therapists, we are all like a forest, trees. And actually how we root and nourish each other is through the roots and the ground. There's something called fungi that actually connects trees and nourishes those who need more nourishment and gives off, takes the carbohydrates it needs and passes it on to other people, trees. So I did a experiential around this recently. So it's very fresh. It comes from a book, and I'm going to forget her name, but it's called Braiding Sweetgrass. Her last name is Kimmer. Anyway, it's an incredible find that I found this thing about how the trees are all connected. And as we feel into that rootedness and that connectedness, I want to honor the teachers who have inspired us in the creation of this form for Steve and I in this physical storytelling. So first I want to bring in our acknowledging contact improv teachers. Steve Paxton, I'm gonna get emotional. And as you know, Nancy Stark-Smith just passed away recently. So we're bringing them in. They were particularly inspiring teachers to Steve. I've met them both, seen them both perform. They're amazing people. So contact improv is part of this collectivity we weave into physical storytelling. Next, I want to bring in our playback theater inspiration. We worked for many years with this woman named Christina Hagathorn out of Sweden, out of Göteborg, and she learned about it when she was studying psychodrama with Moreno, and she met Joe Salas and Jonathan Fox. So I want to bring in Joe Salas and Jonathan Fox because the structure of playback has helped structure physical storytelling, particularly with the conductor role who brings in summary. And Steve's quite good at that. I'm still learning to be a conductor. And then I want to bring in my authentic movement tribe. So, and that helps me improvise. It helps me with my own authentic impulses and just trusting my impulses. So I'm bringing in, I mean, I didn't know Mary, but Steve knew Mary, and Janet and Zoe and Neela and Tina and Heidi Ehrenreich. So these are many of my teachers. So as you're in this space of honoring ancestors, bringing in your dance therapy lineage as well, how does your body feel like oiling up? I loved Danny's, seaming, checking into our seams. What's your shape like right now? Can we feel into the seams? And if you were in that workshop, you can start to mend the seams that feel less, and the last workshop, actually, the first movement thing I was doing was feeling into the seams, the shape of my body. So you might take something that you've learned over this weekend and just bring it into however, and Dee, what I loved was when she was doing the baby shaking it out. I'm going to forget the exact words she used. I haven't integrated it yet, but things like that. So you may need to do that. You may need to do a bit of the touch patterns, whatever it is that helps you awaken or get into, or maybe you're just really tired because you've been online all day. I've only been online since 4 a.m. this morning, so my is a little bit less. But anyway, whatever it is that helps you get into your body. And as you're awakening all the nooks and crannies in the body, I want you to begin to just tune into your COVID story or an image. It doesn't have to be the big story. It can be a small image, something that early on in the COVID that woke you up to the COVID, or an image you've seen, or a story, or a piece of inspiration. I want you just to bring that into you at the moment. And I'm just warming up my body because I'm actually going to do a little bit of movement for you around that story in a minute. But I'm just giving you a minute. And of course, I would give you more time if we had more time. But unfortunately, it's just an hour. And I'm quite aware of, staying within the time structures. So hopefully you've got an image or a little story. It doesn't have to be big, anything. And now you can just take a break from the movement and just jot down maybe what that image is, or what's your COVID story, or whatever, sheltering in place, whatever just arose for you. Just trust that. And if you have, pen, paper, markers, crayons, whatever around, it's nice to have that in case you feel inspired to do some artwork. But for now, I just want you to put that image down, and then I'm just going to do a little warm-up dance where you can project and just put your imagination onto my dance. So, because what I'm trying to show you is this is when I go out of the room and I haven't heard the story, and I walk into the room and I just begin to improvise. So just take a minute. You can write anything down. You can put in the Q&A part what you saw, or if there's anything that you saw in my dancing that reflects or doesn't reflect your story, I guess, or your image, or Q&A. I got one Q&A. Frustrated closed-inness. Yeah, that certainly, I believe, was happening for a lot of people during this time. And I didn't know what was going to come through me, so that was improvised. I had no idea. And I've done this regularly in workshops that we offer because we're trying to help people get out of the literalness of it, get out of the literal story. And that when I walk in the room, usually, I don't know, I just feel drawn to something and I just start to move it. And it's always a very interesting experiment. We call it our sort of Rorschach test, I guess, our physical storytelling Rorschach. Okay, so we got heaviness, fear, breath. Yep. Frustration, annoyance, giving up, then accepting. Waiting to breathe like your last breath. Yeah, that so fits with what COVID's about. Anger and the process to rhythm. The mess of all the papers around me, the frustration of not having enough space. Energy exploding. Yeah, I can really relate to all of those. So thank you for sharing those. Yeah, that's perfect segue into which the next part, which I want to share I think what I'll do first with, how do I make this big, Steve? Slideshow. Hopefully, anyway, whatever. Whoops, that was the end of it. Okay, how do I get to the first one? There we go. Okay, the first thing I want to do, though, is I'll read this quote. I didn't really put it in order, and then I'll go back. Steve, how do I make this big? Do you know? Anyway, right now it's looking like this. So this quote comes from a book that was really profound for me last year called Belonging, Remembering Ourselves Home. And she says that there is an important story needing to come through each of us. We are longing to be seen, to be necessary, to belong to our community. But the only way a community can heal itself is to draw out the story coming through each individual. Only when we recognize the events of our lives and of those who went before us as leading us in a meaningful direction can we pick up the threads of our story in present time and weave it forward with common purpose. So that was a meaningful quote for me, and yes, I can share the slides. I don't even know how I make this bigger. Anyway, I just want to give you a definition of physical storytelling. It's a creative, improvised dance practice with roots in dance therapy, playback theater, contact improv, authentic movement, and dance improv. And this process can be utilized in therapy, supervision, teaching, performance, ritual, and arts-based research. This form draws on the elements of storytelling, physical interaction, improvisation, and witnessing with the aim of transforming inner subjective experience through metaphor in a shared setting. The resulting communication or performance can be described as exquisite communication. The basic structure is similar to playback theater with the roles of the conductor, teller, and dancers. A teller shares a story, an event, a case study, and the conductor chooses a score that fits with the story. Dancers improvise a simple interactive dance or solo without mimicking the story. The goal is to uncover the story under the story, as well as connect community with the universality of shared story. So it's a bit of a long one, but I can share these slides. Um, the next slide has a little bit about our scores. So those of you who know Contact will know that there's scores that come from that. Maybe it comes out of musical scores. And we sort of continue to develop these, but the basic scores are we can have a solo. I just did a solo for you. We can do a solo with a scarf. And we tend to use Emily Day's dancing color scarves, and pretty much that's usually the only prop we use. But on Zoom, when we've been doing these Zoom gatherings, obviously people have been improvising with other things, but normally we just use the scarves because they can become weight and heavy, or they can become something different. So we like the fact that they're not defined as how you move with them. They can become costuming. So there's a lot to those scarves. And I think it's also because Playback Theater had a lot of, they have props, and one of them is, cloths. So they have various cloths. So that was soloist scarf. Then we have something called 3 stops, which means there's 3 dancers who improvise. So they get on the stage, they take get on the stage, get in the space, take a shape, and then one of them spontaneously begins the improvisation. Then they stop, and then the second person dances, and then they stop. So it doesn't mean that you can't use the other movers. The other movers just aren't moving with you directly. It's an interesting score, and we've had some problems teaching it, but it's a great score, and it's really great for 3 parts of a story: beginning, middle, end, or maybe the end is the imagined thing after the conflict or whatever. But it's great for, bringing that structure around it. And then there's 3 solos. Oh, that I said 3 stops and 3 solos. Okay, 3 solos was what I just described. 3 stops is when 3 movers begin to move together, and then they find a natural stop, and then they move again, find a natural stop. So both 3 stops and 3 solos are great for looking at a story and breaking it in and structuring it into 3 parts. Then there's the shadow dance, or the double, where one mover is the protagonist and the other mover stands behind in the beginning, and they begin that relationship and just do a duet. Then there is the journey score, where one person is a protagonist and the other person is either the antagonist, helper, whatever. And so we have the person who told the story pick the spot in the room where they start, and then we have them pick the end in the room where they finish, and that's where the story's over. It's a very, very powerful story. We've begun writing articles in the DTAA journal, moving on each of these scores now. So we've got many articles there. I can share the intro article with you myself, and then if you want the other ones, you can go to the website. I've got that information at the end, just so you know. And then there's the fairy tale, which is one of our favorite ones, and we've used that to, often as the end of a session, just because it's a nice way to bring things into the real imaginal realm with, so it's completely improvised. We have been a lot more creative, and we've been doing some interesting things lately with this score. But the original structure is one person, and Steve and I'll demonstrate this one at the end. One person starts to improvise a fairy tale, and the other person just moves. A lot of times I do this with scarves or something. But it just goes back and forth. We do not score it. Nobody starts first. Now, there's a difference with Zoom. We have been kind of creating more of that just because it's more difficult on Zoom with some of that. So we have actually sculpted that a little bit. I think that's good about scores. Um, and then this is the little piece that I like to share in teaching now. This came through me, and when I was teaching dance therapy students in New Zealand, I think it was 2 years ago. I think so. Anyway, 2018. And I actually got inspired because I was actually at the dance therapy conference, which is very rare for me now, but I finally got to Salt Lake, and I've really loved Christine Caldwell's mobility gradient. So I started to think in terms of physical storytelling, and I call them continuums or gradients. And as you can see, the metaphors, yeah, I can use my cursor. Metaphors going from concrete to abstract. Physical storytelling, we try to stay away from literal. We don't want to do the literal story. That's not going to take us into the story under the story. So we will go to the abstract. So think of it as the metaphors are very abstract. And then as far as spontaneity and improvisation, think of, when people are reticent to move, you would say, well, they're still a bit tentative, or maybe it's simple. And I don't really mean simple movement, because simple movement can be the most profound. A person can start improvising a story and just be doing this movement, and it can have the most profound, feeling to it. So I don't mean it that way. I just mean that they're very tentative and shy about improvisation. So in order to do physical storytelling, you have to be committed, and you have to really be, curious about the complexity of it, and, just really be in your improvisational body, And so this is what I really, really wanted to share with you about that. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm sorry I didn't make it big. I'm still new. I'm not a PowerPoint person. I actually don't like PowerPoints. But since we're using the medium of the screen, I needed to give you at least that background. So that's a little bit of a background into what physical storytelling is. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the project. What happened was back in late January, Steve was working out a symposium for China, and he was meeting with this person named Banyan, who was helping him get his slides and organize all that. And actually, it was what you were meeting with her already. And then we got an email from where we were supposed to go to this conference in March that said, there is this virus hitting China. And we're like, whoa, what's that? And so, immediately put our travel plans asunder. And we, canceled that. We were able to put that money on United, but it's still sitting there because we can't travel yet. So Steve was meeting with Banyan, and he said, we should play with a little bit of physical storytelling and with your peers. So she had a peer group. So the very first meeting we had was in February. So it was 4 Chinese women in their dance therapy peer group. There was Steve and myself, a woman we dance with who we love, who's from Guam. She has been connected with me for a number of years because she's interested in creative arts therapy, dance therapy. She's been studying counseling. She did live in New York for 10 years, so she's got a pretty neat background, and her name's Alethea, so she was with us. And then Joan Wittig was with us, because Joan is the director of that program. And so it was really profound. We were really quite moved by the experience. And as you know, the virus spread. So the next group we got together with included some of our Italian colleagues. So we've done 9 meetings now with various 10? Oh, I thought it was 9, and 10's today, 11's today. Anyway, we've done a number of meetings, and the people haven't been always consistent. Now, Steve and I and Banyan have been the 3 primaries. We've always been here. Alethea's been pretty good. She missed a few of them, but we've had Australian colleagues, we've had US colleagues, we've had our Italian colleagues. And the issue, of course, is time zones. Of course, as you know, with this conference, all the people saying to Erica, "Are you recording it? Are you recording it so I can see it later?" Well, I originally was supposed to be visiting my parents, and I was supposed to be actually physically in Chicago. You know, I could have done it because they live in Louisville, Kentucky. But no, I'm in Guam, and Guam is on the same time zone right now as a lot of Australia is. We're the same as Brisbane. We don't change at all. So we're Chamorro Standard Time. If you want to know a new time zone now, it's called Chamorro Standard Time. So anyway, we were constantly kind of adjusting time. So if we met at 11 in the morning, we could usually get people in the States. If we met at, was the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon or something, yeah. We could get Europe in the morning, and always on a weekend day. So it might be Sunday for us, or it might be Saturday. So we've been negotiating with this. So what I want to do, so anyway, I had the technology skill. I knew how to use Zoom, so that put me in good stead for the Zoom part, but I still didn't know a lot about Zoom, and we're still learning. But one of the cool functions about Zoom is being able to just highlight 2 or 3 movers on the screen and taking our video, stopping our video, and that way, at least in the video, you can see everybody. Or see everybody. You can just see the movers. Too much talking. And did somebody ask a question? I just want to check before I get totally lost. Oh, sorry. You were telling me how to make it bigger and I didn't do it. Thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm just, you know, still figuring all this out. So anyway, when we do physical storytelling, in the beginning, we were having the Chinese women tell us stories about their lockdown. And because, you know, they were all isolated in their homes for 2 months, I think it was. And so, but we had a Westerner dance for them. So the other 4, the rest of us, you know, did a solo for them. And from that first session, we just realized that we can translate this over Zoom. So we were quite moved by the experience. And I shared a lot about that particular session in a live video I did for Creative Arts Therapy Week, and it's on my Facebook page. It's also on my YouTube channel as well. So you could see more about that particular day in that video. So, oh yeah, and we've written an article for the CAET Journal. So
it's coming out in 2 weeks.
Steve just said it's coming out in 2 weeks. So anyway, but what I want to do is I've got 2 video clips I wanted to share from different sessions we had and from different times. And they're both going to be solos. Oh yeah, I got to talk about what we added too. So what was really interesting before lockdown for us, and when we had already done the Chinese session, we presented this work at a conference for, it was down at University of Guam, and it was for the whole Department of Arts or Humanities. And so because I could go, it was on a Friday, and Steve couldn't come down till after school, I went early for the whole day because I went to listen to our psych students that we taught in the master's program. We taught them creative arts therapy, and I was listening to them about their research. And then I happened to go into the theater to see a bit of music performance, and they were showing a little bit of what play they were going to do. And I met the music teacher. And lo and behold, I told her about our workshop, and she said, well, I'm going to bring my whole philosophy of arts class. So she brought her whole class, and they're mostly artists versus musicians, even though she's a musician. And they were great because what we do is we have a story, and sometimes, we don't do this every time we do a round of movement, we'll have artwork and writing afterwards, sort of like poetic writing. It's very quick. We don't take a long time with it. People can work on images later if they feel moved to do so. But this comes out of my also out of my authentic movement practice, because this is the way that I teach it too, is to give space for creating an image, creating some words. So anyway, I met this woman, Colleen, musician. Women, we hold multiple threads. Anyway, Sally Konslioka, who's a dance therapist, and I used to talk about that all the time. Anyway, she was a singer, and Steve said to her, "Well, maybe you'll join us sometime." And she said, "Sure." Well, then COVID struck, so we invited her online, and she started adding a whole new element with sounding. And if you know anything about playback theater, Joe Salas is a musician and music therapist, and so music has always been integral in playback theater. In physical storytelling, we haven't always had the capacity or the skilled musical improviser. Well, Colleen has added magic with her voice, and I mean, wow. I mean, she is an opera trained singer, but she really has added this whole new dimension. And then she brought in a friend from Ohio who's a pianist who's very interested in therapeutic music. And so anyway, we keep we keep remorphing and reforming and all this. And before I move on, I'll just say, because I want to show these videos, that one of the things we talk about, which comes from Steve, I'll give him credit, is he always talks about this simple model of form and energy. So when we improvise, if there's too much form, there's not going to be the energy. If there's too much energy, it's going to be way too chaotic, and we need to bring in form. So it is this ongoing relationship between form and energy. But that's why we have these scores. We score the stories because often a story will fit incredibly into a score. So it's been harder to play with some of the scores on Zoom, but we keep getting braver and braver each time we do this. So what I'm going to show you first is a story that came from our recent session last weekend, and Colleen does the moving, and Colleen's not a mover even though she warms up with us. Yeah, we always do a simple chase sort of back and forth warm up where somebody leads and we all follow, so we just go to the traditional dance therapy warm up tools to get the body going. But the first video I want to show you is just a natural mover who tells the story. Now,
Banyan's story of just being scared, particularly scared of the images in her own mind. And you just move, and we'll watch.
So, okay, there it is. Go ahead, and if you want to write down any draw or write down anything that came from you. The story was that she talked about the dance of her inner states of being scared of the images that were coming to her mind. So that was the original story. So you can write or do a quick drawing, and this will give me time to find the next video. That's Easter. Oh yeah, okay. I know where it is. And I'll look. Oh gosh, I can't see their comments, so I guess I have to stop screen sharing. Okay. So if anybody wants to share anything that you saw from that dance, that was just a simple score, a solo score. It was the first story of that session. And I will share some of what people in the session spoke to afterwards. But if anybody wants to share, I don't see anything coming up in the chat, so I'll go ahead and share what people said, and then if, oh, okay, so there is one, yay, fear, yeah, great. See if there's another one. Oh, good. A lot of negotiation also, yeah, great.
You might be mentioning this came right after the riots in the U.S.
And as you know, those of you in the U.S., this session was last Saturday, so it came as the rioting was happening, and was the death on Friday before? Anyway, so it came as the whole unrest in the U.S. So you can imagine, and the woman who told it is from China. Timid exploration, eventual yearning. Yeah, beautiful. Those are great. I mean, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. So I'll read to you what our participants said. And somebody said, the dance gave me a way to see within my feeling I haven't been able to acknowledge in myself. I began by being scared to find an image to delve into my mind. The dance allowed me to sink into myself, to my complex feelings that I did not want to even touch. The dance opens a way to connect to myself. Somebody else said it opened a door to feelings and fears. And somebody else said, the dance expressed my unspeakable impression of myself that I had not even acknowledged until now. So that's what came from our participants. Now I'm going to show you, oh God, okay, here we go. These buttons. Another video. And what I want to share about this video is it was a story. It was actually Steve's sister Diana who told the story. She joined us in one session, and she tells the story about when she was out shopping, you know, and everybody's masked up, and she was feeling like she just wanted to give gratitude to the person serving her and saying, you're really serving people and we appreciate it. And that was her story. She really felt this need to appreciate this. It would have been the cashier. So, but this, you'll see in the dance what happens. It's pretty spectacular. So I will find it. I did find it. Oh, here it is. And it's number 20. Okay. I have to advance it. So bear with me, because these haven't been edited.
That I'm doing in my community.
So she's telling the story there, and I'll just go to the dance. Oops.
Okay. I do have a restless with it. So thanks.
So this is Diana's story of deep appreciation and this rather tragic and disorienting time.
This was Easter weekend, by the way, April. We're gonna do well on time because it'll have time for questions. So now just take a few minutes. You can do a little drawing. You can do a little writing. I'll just give you, sorry, like a minute or something. And then I'll read from my participants and you can share something that you want. So I suppose this is where I could have put music on. When the theme appreciation appears from a previous conversation within the group, or is it spontaneous from the participants? Everything we do in physical storytelling is spontaneous. Well, I shouldn't say that. We might get together and a theme is encouraged. We might actually bring kind of a theme on board, but we just work with what comes through on that day. And somebody said, I loved her dance. The down and up, the close, the open, the pain, the promise, The chaos, the faith, such vulnerability and truth. Yeah, absolutely. That was a stunning dance. Connor, I know this is a developing process. What are you finding to be the main differences between this and playback theater at the moment? Well, the main difference is we don't consciously make it a performance in terms of, just opening it up to a performance. We do a lot more sort of self-growth exploration, although playback theater groups will do the same. They will do that. We also try to make the improvisations really, really brief. And you know what? I will bring Steve in to talk about this in a minute, and we'll get to it. But I think that question is much deeper, and we probably use it in different formats. That playback theater traditionally is used in communities or as performance, and we have always we've always had an issue of numbers, right? Small groups. Well, anyway, okay, now I got to read the next one. Felt the struggle as my daughter's BFF, she calls me mama, went through as she battled for her life in the hospital after 4 failed attempts to excubate. She finally woke up on Good Friday. Wow. Good Friday. Well, this dance was on Saturday. No, it was Saturday, wasn't it? It was Saturday, Easter weekend, which would have been Friday your time. Friday your time. So, oh man, I'm feeling that synchronicity. Wow, Danny, thank you for that story. Let's see if there's any other ones. Yeah. So let me read what the participants said. So that story was completely came through the group. We weren't meeting on a theme, were we? No. We're just meeting because it's COVID and everybody's had to stay at home. And at the time, probably in April, I wasn't scuba diving because I had no tank refills. So anyway, the participants were saying that she was looking out with compassion and seeing energy swirls, an image of a very special bird. Somebody else said, layered with the image of a flower, the swirl of emotion, the pulse of humanity, the word soulfulness is in the image. Somebody else said, in the time before religion, we danced our love for each other. So we did art and writing after this one. So we actually have these. And so these were what people wrote on their artwork. And then the next one is, from the depth of fear springs new life. From the death and despair, the shamanic dances brings forth the medicine, the rhythms of healing, rebirthing humanity, holding seeds, roots, blossoms, as all as is, as it should be. So that I wanted to show you that because, these were just the solos. We've done some other things, but I wanted to show you those two in particular to show you the person who's not a trained dancer but is a mover and, who's doing the voice for us a lot is willing to engage in that. And then I wanted to show you where the story of just that simple interaction in a grocery store. So we like to call it the everyday story. Like when Steve and I do a workshop, it'll often be, so just tell how you got here today. Now you can imagine the layers that come with how you managed to get there. What was happening in the house? Was it crazy? Was it chaotic? So there's so much more that's going on with that story. So this is an everyday story. And in this story, Diana was trying to show appreciation to the worker. So, one of the things that's similar to playback theater that we talk about is summaries. So what I'm seeing in the words, okay, I see another feedback. I'll read that. Witnessing this dance, I'm imagining a scarecrow coming alive in the middle of a storm. Yeah, that's a great image, isn't it? I saw that too. Now it's scared itself and through the dance finds the breath, the release, the life, and the acceptance. Yes. Thank you. That's beautiful. I love your responses. That's so fantastic. So, as we're coming to the last 10 minutes, I want Steve and I to have a chance to do our fairy tale process. And then whatever remaining time is, we will have some question and answer time. I think that was all that was on my agenda.
Do you want to talk about the main theme that's come through?
Well, you're so good at it. I'll bring in Steve. He's been sitting on the sidelines and listening, and I'll let him do what he's really good at, which is bringing what as we've been exploring in this one less than an hour, what the theme has been.
Well, I don't know if Connor's emphasized enough how exciting the project is, and that everybody is from a different country who's participating. And we're participating for people 6,000 miles away from China to New York City all at once. And the main theme that keeps coming up over and over in our imagery has to do with a letting go of trust in leaders and government and news people and that sort of thing, and a real coming up with this internal journey that people are going on, that we all seem to resonate with, and then finding some kind of more genuine connection with our world community in the moment. There's just read one. Let's see. Here's, because I want to leave some time for a fairy tale. There's plenty of ways that people have said this throughout our 11 weeks or 10 weeks here. But here's one woman's response at the end of one of our most recent meetings. She said, the people were listening, not to the prophets, not to the politicians, neither to the journalists nor their neighbors, but to a quieter, deeper voice inside themselves. Yes, they said to themselves, I have been here all along. I am so grateful that you are here with me now. Then I think probably this piece of art says it better than most of our words. This was offered by a Chinese participant after one of our very initial sessions. And this was her response to the whole process.
Okay, so we just have enough time for that.
Okay, so we're going to do an improvised fairy tale. Deep within an ocean cave, the currents began to swirl. The fish could sense the tremors of the earth beneath them, around them, everywhere. And began swimming. They were telling each other, we can't go anywhere. We're never going to get out of this cave. The waves are getting too big. The tide's too strong. We are losing our way. began to swim in a very different way. Sensing with their bodies their scales against the water. We're really not so blind. They came into the open sea, transformed.
So you can take 30 seconds, do a little writing or drawing, and of course, you know, you can do more later if you feel moved to do so. And we are running out of time. I'm just going to share the last slide of how you can get in touch with us. God, I've lived it through you. Thank you both. That's lovely. Thank you for that. How do I get to the last slide? No, not that one. The next one.
Down here.
I know, but I can't. I am not a PowerPoint queen. Those are just my email. You can find our journal articles from DTAA up here. That's my Facebook thing. There's a Mind Your Body podcast number 21 that we talked about physical storytelling, and that's my email. But of course, Erica's going to be collecting these. So
I'm going to make sure to collect all of the information that you guys want to share with me. And, you know, that can be socials, that can be, like you said, this, you know, email, it could be links to a video or discussion from a podcast. So I will make sure that whatever you all want to share as the presenters that our attendees will receive. But I just want to thank you for that. I think, Connor, we've had the pleasure of talking about this before and kind of you walking me through the different ways that you approach storytelling and using movement through storytelling. And yeah, I really appreciated the moments where people connected through the screen, you know, like you said, the synergy came up and the images that we all, or maybe not all, but that a lot of us had were so similar. And the fact that you're all doing it through Zoom, you know, that you're having these moments of storytelling and connection through virtual platforms, right? Do you anticipate continuing to do it virtually, even when we're allowed to reconvene?
funny you should ask. I've been telling Steve, because he's on summer break from school, that we should offer some workshops, and we could do it at a Sunday time, which means it's evening in the States on the Saturday. Not sure if that gets Europeans or not, but we would work something out. We plan to do some workshops, like a basic workshop. We'd only do it, these sessions, by the way, with people have only been 2 to 3 hours at the most, so sometimes 2.5. We probably would offer sessions that way, to learn more about just the practice. And then, I think one of the focuses we can offer too is how you conduct it, how you kind of run it yourself. And probably conducting a lot, going back to the playback theater question, conducting a lot is such a skill, and it's such a gift. And so that really takes some understanding of that role. I mean, it's a little bit easier if you're just doing a little thing in a therapy session where you say, okay, tell me how angry you are. Is this angry enough? So that's a simple way that we talk about physical storytelling in therapy. What is Steve's profession? Oh, that's anonymous. Sorry. Is actually dance therapist, drama therapist, play therapist, PhD psychologist. What else? Anyway, he's full of it. He's a psychologist at the school on base. So,
and professor.
Well, Steve, I'm so glad that you could join the presentation. I appreciate you both being here. And yeah, just like all the presentations, these could all be 3-hour intensives at least, right? We could keep talking about this. And thank you guys again for waking up early to participate and for making your time zone accommodate to Chicago, because I know you were supposed to be here and the world had other plans.
It did.
Yeah, so I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for closing out our day. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Well, thank you. And I don't know how we're going to proceed, but we are trying to gather the data from these sessions. So we have data of artwork and people's writings, and so we are looking at articles. So yeah,
today even we're presenting the very sort of a follow-up with the Chinese and Americans, and we're looking at the theme of the tensions now between the United States and China as our theme of metaphors, hoping to get beneath that story. And what we found so far is that we're very close with each other. In the East and West, and very different than the way our politicians are presenting each other.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that for sure. It's so different when you're in connection and communication as opposed to it being maybe a persona, right? Or a diplomatic approach, so to speak. So, well, thank you guys so much. What's that?
Or just a nameless person. We're not nameless to the Chinese anymore, nor are they nameless to us.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody asked me if those were pre-existing groups. Not really. I mean, yes, most of them have some comfort there's a lot of dance therapists who've joined us in this work, and that was a musician you saw performing, so she was already comfortable with the form. So it is kind of an ongoing group, but the membership has varied, like I said, because we had people from Italy as well, and managing time zones between for us and U.S. and Europe is very difficult. So
our only goal is to do mixing people from different countries and cultures.
Yeah.
And there's a group of about 3 or 4 or 5 that rotate as a kind of a core group. And then we include people from the indigenous culture here in Guam, to China, several Italians, some others from et cetera, et cetera. And each group, though, is meant to be someone from have several people from different countries. So it is surprising how easily and appreciative people are to develop empathy with each other using these more nonverbal forms.
Yeah. Somebody commented earlier that there is no language barrier when we all use our bodies, when we all use movement. And I know, I was like, that's so true. I mean, I know that that's not how everybody sees it, but I think for the work that we do, you don't have to be able to speak the same language to understand or move with someone and be seen. So thank you guys both so much. I'm just aware of time. I know it's been a long day for a lot of people. I hope you join us tomorrow. I'm gonna turn you guys back into attendees so that you can attend tomorrow if you'd like.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.